We made it, Tom. We made it through the summer. We made it through the summer, Tom.
I nearly didn't make it through the first 10 seconds of this podcast. I have a 40mm riser screw here, and I was actually picking my teeth with it, Ger, and it slipped. What is wrong with me? Like, I tell you though, Ger, I'm shook. I'm shook. I saw how cruel nature can be. I was about 4 minutes late for the.
Not the birds, Tom.
Yeah, but I had nothing to do with this at all, right? One of the birds. Now,
All right.
like I said, I like one of the birds. They're on the move, right? They are on the move.
Okay.
They've online check-in has been done.
Right.
I see him up on the phone wires, and one of them went to fly out of the garage and bonked its head. I don't know how. The door was wide open. Bonked his head on.
Curious that, Tom.
No, nothing to do with me, right?
Okay.
But he was fluttering and kind of arsing around on the ground. And I was walking over to kind of just get him up, like, come on, you're going now, come on, get yourself together. I know you're excited. And he was kind of looking around going, Jesus, what just happened? And in that moment, Ger, I mean, I'm about 5 feet from him, and I go to reach down. You won't expect what of all animals, you'd say a cat was going to come in.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah.
The dog was getting fairly excited, running behind me,
Yeah.
all right. The dog, the cat, everything was too slow. A magpie came in and snatched him right in front of me.
Bird on bird crime.
Bird on bird. Like, that's it. He ain't making it to South Africa. I'm sorry. That is magpie pie right now, wherever he's
Swallow got swallowed.
Yeah.
Well, I rest shake a rev Anam. How are you all keeping there, gang? You're welcome along to the Tom and Gerry podcast. I'm Gerry McBride. That's Tom O'Mahony over there, bringing us sad tidings of one of the swallows that he gave out about for a whole segment last week, but had nothing to do with the death of this one this week.
And I wanted to get that clear, right? Wanted to say that live on a podcast to you so that I'm not implicated. I have no way of proving it. The dog won't say anything, but I'm just saying it out there. It wasn't me. I had nothing at all to do with it. Only good will and good tidings.
Your plan for not implicating yourself is going horribly, Tom.
Jesus.
But other than that, we are into September, brother. And how are you finding it? The young lad started back at school. I saw you put him up on Facebook. I'll tell you, you can't deny that, gas, and so you can't.
No, it's quite a few. You think he's going to, at some stage, diverge and stop looking like me. But it's, as somebody wrote, how does he look more like you than you do? Like, oh yeah, that's a valid point. Put a moustache on that kid and it's ridiculous. I think more than anything, I'm starting to look more like him, whatever's happening. He started school. I don't know, like the scaremongering, people need to stop being such cliche hooers when it comes to just different things in our everyday lives. Do you know, people get, oh God, saying things like over for another year now, these kind of, just be original. Because the amount of people that messaged that, talking about back and forth, is he nervous? I'd say he's nervous. And you're like, are you joking me? He gets to go hang out with his friends in what? No, you have never seen a less nervous. The anti-nervous brigade were on board in his country little school. Him and seven other little students. They all look like little guards. They all look like little guards in their little navy uniforms. And to say that while I was like, so you're going to be okay? And he was looking at me like, Jesus Christ, pull yourself together for God's sake. And I was like,
yeah, gather yourself. Yes.
All right. And it was so funny. Like, you're in the country, like when all the dads are walking out wearing Snickers and we're all clacking, walking out the door.
Yeah.
All our Snickers trousers and various other versions are clacking out the door.
On the flip side of it, Tom, your man's early doors of school. My two are grizzled veterans at this stage.
Yeah.
And they went solemnly back to school. How about I say that?
Okay, so they're in the burnout phase. I get it. It happens as all.
They're in the okay.
I'm happy to say this publicly on air right now. This year, the start of this year, his first ever year, class, right? I don't know how the other ones are gonna go.
Yeah.
Class. But all good. Birthday parties.
As the old joke goes, you don't realize you're there for a long time.
Yeah, birthday parties over the weekend as well. So there was bouncy castles and sugar, and you want to watch 20 country kids high on multicolored things leaping on a giant alligator. It was I was glad. At one point I was glad to go in and do the 2 gigs I was doing that evening. I was kind of like, all right, Jesus Christ, can I get out of here for a rest and go tell some jokes to people? So yeah, it was a full-on weekend, but all good. I cannot crib. Bar, it was sullied a bit this evening now by the sight of that poor old bird getting. Interestingly, you don't really conceive how big a magpie is, but that bastard could have taken me if he wanted. Do you know what I mean? This was some, you know, John Carpenter looking
I
stuff
wouldn't
like
mess
this.
with a
Yeah,
magpie, Tom. I wouldn't mess with a magpie.
I waved at him. Whatever you're supposed to do, Jer. I mooned him. I don't know what you're supposed to do with a magpie to keep good luck, but I did it. I did it all anyway. I gave him the finger. I high fived him. I didn't know what to do, but pray for me is all I'll say because I don't know what's to come within the next hour.
Anything can happen in the next half hour, Thomas. Speaking of which, now let's segue. This is going to be the hardest right turn segue we've ever had
I'm
in our
looking for
lives
this
because
one
we're all
now.
talking about bouncy castles, and wishing sparrows the best with their future endeavors. But we're going to bring you into the weekly what have you here, ladies and gentlemen, because yes, it is the start of September. And that brings with it a very important anniversary. So yeah, that is our weekly what have you for the week, guys. It's the big news, it's the scuttlebutt. You know what it is. Hit him with the jingle, Thomas, the weekly what have you.
This is a very complicated case, Maud. You know, a lot of ins, a lot of outs, a lot of what have yous, and a lot of strands to keep in my head, man. You know.
The weekly what have you. I don't know.
So by the time this
will it be out on time? I suppose we'll be leading into the next one,
we're
we?
leading into it. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
we land on Thursday, which is the 5th, and then the following Thursday is the 12th. So if we were going to do anything for the weekly what have you, Tom, we do it now.
God, you're
It
smart. You're
is by the
smart.
time you listen to this. What can I say?
Just
You don't
so
want to
good
miss
with
the thing.
so good with scheduling. Like I would have done this the day of and everything and be late with it. And God, you're good with scheduling. Fair play to you.
Well, let's find out how wise this was as a weekly. What have you, Tom? We're talking about the anniversary, 23rd, it is, of the September the 11th attack. Now, we're a good crack podcast, Tom, but if any of the listeners are kind of going like, lads, thinking we're about to spend the next 20 minutes making light of the September 11th attacks, which claimed over 3,000 American lives and kicked off pretty much 2 straight decades of war and
Yeah.
hell. We're not going to do that, okay? But we said that we would mark it because it is an important anniversary, of course. Uh, and I had no other news this week, Tom.
There was plenty of news, but I think given both our affiliation with America and stuff like that, I mean, even though we have, in a lot of ways, no time for America at all, but awful time in some ways for America.
Well, this is it. And not for nothing as well, I want to say, Tom, I'm 44 this next birthday. I know you're behind me. You're about 42, 43
I'll be
thereabouts.
43 in 19 days' time. I'll be 43, so I'm not that far behind you.
So you think about it, this is now 23 years. So both of us were like 19, 20. Okay, so here's what we're going to do, folks. Okay, I told you already we're not going to make little at September 11th. It's not that kind of podcast. And we're not going to get into the conspiracy theories of 9/11. It's
Not going
not
to get
that kind
into
of podcast either.
anything really of 9/11. There's plenty of documentaries out there if you want to go have a look at that kind of thing. But
I'll throw a few up on the socials if you're curious. But I'll tell you what we can do, Tom,
mm-hmm.
with the very level best of the men. What we can do is we can make everything all about ourselves. And that's what we're going to do right here.
That's about the most comedian thing I've ever heard in my entire life. Well, it's a tragic scenario, but at the same time, Tom, what were you
About
up to?
9/11. Just about us.
Yeah.
So here's what we're going to do, Tom. It's really easy, and I can't believe we haven't done it before. We'll just take the fine listeners of the Tom and Gerry podcast through our experiences of the day, which should be pretty different now.
Yeah. Well, mine, I'll cut straight to the point. Mine,
Yours much more than mine, I would say.
yeah, I'm sure I've told you about this before, but I was in America for that summer for my J1.
Yes, indeed.
And we were in Boston. And of course, being such cliche Irish young fellas, all
Well, I
going to
didn't want to
Boston.
say it, Tom.
With our incredibly, we took have decent fake ID made before we went because we were, actually overage at home, being 19, I think, and underage in America. And it was a great summer. We spent it
Yes.
arsing about. I tipped around between New York and Florida, and and whatnot. And I was one of the last to go. The lads had all gone a few weeks before me, but I'm one of those guys to I like to get all of the party out of me.
Yes, indeed.
But what it like there'll be people listening to this that are maybe that young that okay, they're pre that or whatever when they were born, but they were so young maybe they hadn't flown or taken responsibility. But what they didn't realize the turning point of airport security that happened immediately after that because, and I've said this and I don't mind saying it because it's such a I've said it many times, but it's such a poignant moment. Was I flew home, and I'll go back a few days as well. I flew home on September 10th out of Boston, the
Right.
same airport that they flew out of, the hijackers flew out of, and my I had washed my passport accidentally in some laundromat in Fort Lauderdale. A couple of weeks not fully sober kind of does that. Like, and I remember
Yeah, that'll do it.
producing it to the actually also I had two baseball bats that I was bringing home, and
Right.
they were like, they could technically be weapons. They were checking lads, other Irish lads were ahead of me. You could see they'd hurleys with them. They were like, kind of have to check them into the
Right.
loading
Right.
because they're weapons. And Joanne was looking at me, kind of going, "Oh, sure, look at you, go on." So she was leaving me bring these two baseball bats on board. And when I produced I had such a coy 19-year-old, soon to be 20-year-old heading me. I sure
Yeah.
aren't. Tis after getting washed. And at this stage, she was used to so many big spud munching heads. She was so lovely, the woman. Her name was something like, Bridget as well behind the counter. She was lovely.
Yeah.
Who she'd remind you of was the kind of Nana from Dennis the Menace. Do you remember the
Yeah.
woman that,
Yeah. Yeah.
she was
Yes. Yes.
lovely. She was
Yes.
lovely. And she went, "Well, honey, won't you be the cleanest guy on the flight?" I'm like, "Oh, jeez, I suppose I will, sure. Go
Well,
on."
now, to be fair, Tom, like she's working in a Boston airport service in Dublin, so like she'd be used to this kind of thing.
This is the thing, like,
That'll be like, excuse me, sir, are you drunk? No. Well, here, have a couple of bottles on me.
But as we all know, everything changed extremely from 10 milliliters and, kick your shoes off and queue and, ludicrous
The the the
TSA.
the system that's in place now for anybody that was, I'm thinking like anybody that was like 5 years of age at the time
Yeah, yeah,
would be 28, going on 30. Here's me being generous. To say like the lower end of our demographic would be 30-ish, right?
I
Give or
think
take.
we're into
One would assume.
no, well, we're into the low 20s too. We've quite a large population of early 20s. So, lads, you haven't a clue what he's talking about here.
Yeah, well, this is it. And if the rest of you do, you're probably in a pushchair going through security. The security that we have in airports these days, today, we've been fighting against that, Tom, for 20 straight years to
Yeah,
get used to it. And
yeah.
we're only used to it now. It didn't used to be put your shit in a plastic bag. We lived through the whole process of, okay, we have it now. You can take on this amount of liquid if you put it in a bag. And we're like, okay, fine.
Pre
Fine.
pre the date even I was talking about. Pre that, lads, you could practically walk with a fag hanging out of your mouth and
Yeah, do whatever you want.
10 bottles of vodka in your arms, walking
Stroll
through
on.
and stroll on. Define us. You know
So,
what I
Tom,
mean?
were you in the air on September the 11th, or had you
No,
touched down?
no, I touched down and I'll go back a few days. I was
Go for it.
in on September 8th. I was in New York to visit a cousin who lived in Yonkers. I was staying in the borough of Yonkers with him for a couple of days, and he took me down to. We didn't get to meet his brother, who worked in one of the buildings, Tower Two.
Right.
Um, he didn't. We didn't get to meet him that day, but we went out for lunch. We hung out. I always did the usual thing: walk through Wall Street, the whole lot. And
Gotcha.
being an engineering student, at the time you're just looking at these huge buildings, going, the balls on these fellas, the
Oh,
balls on them. Like, one thing to build now, you know what I mean? You literally have, or even at the time, 2001, CAD, computer aided drawing, that could calculate all the moments of the fulcrums and stuff like that. And you're just looking, going, how much of this was built? Kind of going, yeah, the last one didn't fall.
yeah.
You know,
Throwing a couple of stories on it. It's probably grand.
but like when I started talking to him, who had been quite into it, he's like, "See that building over there?" I was like, "Building number 7, which did come down as well." He says that is the most. That actually is in, I don't know, some World Guinness book for the most oversized steel in it, like ludicrous steel, like
Gotcha.
not necessary at all to hold up. Not the tallest building in New York, but still, just they went, Jesus Christ, put in the biggest. Like, you could have built 7 buildings out of the steel beams that
Gotcha.
were used in the thing. But I
Someone had
remember
a cousin that sold steel.
100%. 100%. It was like, well, sure, look it. It is better looking at it than for it. Do you know that?
Yeah.
But I just remember thinking, the nuts on you to keep going. So we'll throw another one on, will we? Oh, we'll throw
Yeah.
another floor on. And those twin towers were the two that just flabbergasted me. They took up all the skyline of your eyesight. Even if you had your back to them, you could see the fucking things.
I say, yeah.
But standing just gawping up at them, and you're up and up. And I remember with my little camera.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Because people may not know this, but flip phones were only a thing and there was no cameras in them. If there was,
No.
it was rubbish.
Yeah.
And I remember as the furthest point back from the plaza, it still took, was it 2.5 photographs from the very back corner of the plaza
Yeah.
of one of these things. It took two, so you'd have to sellotape, which I
get you,
did,
yeah.
and I'd love
Like
to
a
know where they are.
panorama.
Yeah, exactly. I had to sellotape two of them together. I don't know where it is. It would have been great to have it, but the first thought into my head was, because I was thinking of structurally how they were built, I was like, Jesus tonight divine. If a bit of one came down, could
Yeah.
destroy all around it, because they're in such a precarious place. It's madness, in my opinion, throwing up a thing that height.
Yeah.
But obviously not considering out the way wasn't an option, so up the way was the only thing. And more than anything, they were to show a symbol of American strength. These
Well,
two
it
things.
was literally two fingers to the world, wasn't
It
it?
really was like two big Kit Kats up to the world. And that was my first thing. I came out and I said to him, I remember going, can you imagine one of them things coming down? Like any bit of it, but the whole thing coming down, like what would be the devastation it would cause? And that was, I can't remember much from that summer, but I remember that one phrase coming out of me. And a couple of days later, I was obviously on the plane, and I got back with my doll hairs, and went to lodge them in a bank in Cork. And a security guard came up to me and went, "Some fucking idiot is after flying a plane into one of the Twin Towers." I went, "Oh, I was only at the bloody things. I was only at the here," and I was raging because I wanted to go up in it, but my cousin was around to, key card us in or anything. So
Yeah.
we're like, "Oh, sure, we'll look at other stuff." So instead, and assuming it was a Cessna,
Right.
I went Irish, yeah.
A lot of that going around, yeah.
The handful of dollars that I had left, lodged them, and went back home, over to the flat, and Jesus, the news just unfolded in front of me. I went, no. Immediately started trying to text the aunt, the cousin. Thanks be to God, the cousin's Irishness in him. His tower didn't get hit first. The other one did. The whole world shook. He did not even consider any of his stuff that was at the desk. He was servicing a friend's laptop. He bolted straight for the door and down and out the gap. That was just his Irishness in him. Went, what the fuck? And ran for everything he was worth. Didn't know whether it was somebody's loud fart or whether he didn't know. Everything in him went, run. And he was a good runner. He got away.
That's incredible. You had someone in it. That's amazing, Tom.
Yeah.
Because I will say, like that, and I have watched a lot of documentaries on it. You don't victim blame or anything like that, but a lot of people just kind of had a bit of a suck it and see mentality, and sat and waited and see what was going to happen here. And
Butcher, that's mostly what did happen, and it wasn't until two things kind of came to mind. There, it was one, you're indoctrinated to believe that, well, security will always tell us what's happening, and we'll wait for that.
Yeah.
And two, the very Americanism, very American to your core, but would never to be like believing that a magpie is going to come down and take you. You know what I mean? It was so far from like the pride and the belief that the Americans at the time had in themselves was just unparalleled. Every other nation in the world had been in a war of some sort on their own soil. Do you know what I mean? The Americans I met, we've only to deal with ourselves here. Nobody would. This is Fortress America.
Even though the building that I'm in right now has been hit by a plane.
Yeah.
And so has the one across the road.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's your cousin did the right thing, Tom. I too would have been in the Bronx at this stage. I'm not one of these guys that says like, oh, I would have stayed there, and I would have. You'd have never seen a McBride move so fast in your life.
Not a fit. The same man actually played winger for Newbridge College. He would have been quick on his feet, and he was not waiting. He was down that stairwell I'd say he was taking five at a time, like just
Yeah,
the fucking gap gone. And
yeah.
good luck. And thanks be to God, he did do that, and he was smart
Well,
enough
there you go.
to use his intuition. He was gone. And yeah, I watched it unfold and it was crazy. Our phone, couldn't get through to any phones in America. Nobody knew how to deal with this. Now, here's the thing: stuff like this has been happening in third worlds for years. Okay, not on such a huge building,
Right.
but you
Yeah,
know what
yeah,
I mean.
yeah. But like, yeah.
They've been going through terror and horror and scary stuff for years. But this is the
We're not
first.
rutting ourselves up the north a wee bit too now.
A bit. Yes, you're right. Where I suppose, but this was the age
Let's
of.
see if that makes the edit, Tom.
This is
A
the
bit.
age of. Look, there would have been to the degree, but this is the age of mobile phones, a bit
Yes.
of
Yeah.
the
No.
internet. Do you know what I mean? We were becoming very global, and now we could watch it in real time.
You always got to the news after the fact. That's the one thing I will say about it. You always got to the news after the fact. Oh, there has been an explosion, and we now go live to the scene, and here it is. And yes, the building has clearly blown up and whatnot, or there's been a car crash, and whatever it might be. But this is like, no, this has happened, and pull up a seat and watch it because it's
Yeah,
happening right now,
yeah.
live. OJ Simpson chase,
I
like
don't think there's been anything as live. Do you know what I mean? Since. Do you know what I
there's
mean?
never
There's
been anything as live since.
as live, like in such a mesmeric. Holy Jesus Christ! What is this kind of scenario? I mean,
Yeah.
I suppose Desert Storm was on the television a lot. The Afghanistan one was on the
But even at
television.
that now was filtered. This was
Oh, it's filtered.
And again, youngsters, the youth, the 20-something-year-old listeners of the Tom and Jerry show that you assure me we have, they're used to these days watching live drone footage of Ukrainian lads dropping grenades on Russians as it happens, like it's a fucking game of Call of Duty. No, again, the world wasn't like that in 2001. This was, I hate to
Yeah, it
say it,
was.
Tom, the weekly what have you of the news. I didn't have as much skin in the game as you did, Tom. I was not there the day beforehand, nor was I, literally holding currency in my hand while it happened.
Yeah, yeah.
You there literally with a fistful of dollars,
Yeah.
going
Sounds
like,
like a country song, all the same, doesn't it?
watching this on the news, wondering what the fuck this is going to do to the exchange rate,
I'm just glad I got it lodged immediately, Jared, to be honest with you. That's from a
Well,
selfish point of view, but that's the comedian in me. I'm sorry.
what can we do? What can we do, folks? I had a much simpler end of it, Tom. You were a good man. You could tell what you were doing on September the 8th because I suppose you were in the shadow of the two towers. I couldn't tell you what I did in 2001 up to that day.
That's a fit. No, and nor could I, only that it was a. And I'd say that summer, I couldn't tell you the following summer what I did, but it was because that summer was all hinged on that one fulcrum that
Yeah,
was September
exactly.
11th. You know what I mean?
I could just about tell you I'd started to court I started to court a girl, and it was only early doors. And I only kind of know that because after 9/11 we got like a bank holiday. People might not remember that. Ireland gave us all a bank holiday to just chill out.
Yes.
Remember that?
Yes, I
And
remember
I was
that.
like, oh, what do you have to, that was like a date for us. I was like, what do you have, wait, are you off on that Friday as well? Yeah. Do you want to just like hang around or whatever? It's that much I do know. But the only thing I can tell you about September the 10th, Tom, is that, and I don't know to who, and I don't know of what, but I absolutely made a big sale of tiles. All right.
I would.
September the 10th.
The price of tiles right now, I could fucking do with 2001, but McBride's selling me tiles. I can tell you that right now.
I
That's.
made a big sale of tiles because on 2001, I was putting that order together for delivery. That much I know. All right. And there's probably people that work with me to listen if they're listening to this, they're going like, I fucking sold those. You put them together. You put the order together after I sold it. It's like, all right, you know what? It's 23 years later. Let's not talk about who did or didn't sell 8 by 10 whites here, all right?
Yeah.
But I was working as a waitress in a cocktail bar. I was working as a gopher in a hardware shop. And I remember it was after lunchtime by the time I'd come back from lunch and we were opening up the shop again. And one of the boys came, just some customer came in and he said, oh, did you see what was going on in America? I goes, no, what's going on? And he says, oh, well, like, there's after a plane crashing into a building, like a hijacking sort of a thing. And again, like you, I thought, oh, a Cessna or some such. And he goes, no,
Yeah.
no, like,
A big one.
I didn't know what a fucking Cessna was at the time. I goes, oh, like a wee plane. He goes, no, like a jumbo jet. And I was like, oh, a jumbo jet has been hijacked after it took off and it was crashed into the building. And my brain went, they crashed it into the control tower at the airport.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? That they got it when it was taken off on the runway and just steered it over into the thing. And then we turned on the TV in the shop and I was like, oh no, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. No, when you say a building, you mean that, and I didn't even know the name that it was the World. I don't know that and many people would have known that was the World Trade Center.
I mean, it's quite a statement to make about anything really like that. There's the World Trade Center.
I was always more of an Empire State Building kind of guy. I couldn't name you five other buildings in it.
It's true. It's true. The Empire State was the one on my to-do list that I needed to
right?
go see. Like, you know what I mean? That and the Ghostbusters Firehouse, and you've
Yeah.
done that too. Like,
Yeah, of course.
But
Yeah, these
now,
are things.
so we won't dwell too much on it. And what I'd like to know is people's
Well, I'll tell you one thing. This one I do want to say. I still have
yeah,
this axe to grind, right? We were working away, and any of the customers that came into the shop, we had like a little 14-inch portable for watching football and whatnot, and it was up there, and we watched the whole thing unfold, and the boss said to turn it off. Go back to work.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. There was tiles
And
to
I
be
had to go down
fucking
and put
sold.
together this tile order. And I remember at the time, maybe he was just like, oh, in hindsight, he was running a business. So, number one, it wasn't like, let's get as much money out of people as possible because he wasn't that kind of guy. But I had something in my mind said to me, like, there's a lot of people in Carrick would have had people in New York. And the last thing they want to do is come walking in and see maybe their relatives crumbling underneath the two towers. So I can see that sort of thing. Like, turn that off
Yeah.
in case someone comes in and they're upset by it or whatnot.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Before
yeah.
we're thinking at the time, but I was down in the back of the shed putting together 8x10 glossies. Honestly, Tom, the thought occurred to me that this was the end of the world. That someone was going to fly a plane into the tile and bathroom showroom in Carrick Cross and get me. Thought occurred to me, Tom.
You never know, but here
We didn't know it wasn't happening because it was crashed in Pennsylvania and everywhere. It's like every time you went up to check and sneak the TV on and look, it's like, and another plane has gone down, and there's one in the Pentagon, and there's
yeah. I mean, yeah,
at any rate,
you
there
didn't
you
know.
go.
You didn't know, but I want to quickly ask you a question that you'll probably know the answer to. Have they in certain movies, film of the time, have they CGI'd them out from the skyline? I've heard that they have on some movies, which would
I
be
remember there was a
weird.
couple, we'll get some and throw them up in the socials. There was a couple that they edited around them in places. The only one that I remember was, and I have it here somewhere, Metal Gear Solid 2 on the PlayStation
Right.
was to come out the following Easter. And if anybody has played the game, the end of it takes place in New York, and like a big spaceship has crashed into New York, and they're having a big row at it. Uh,
Right.
and it was like at the end it's really badly edited because you're there like, oh no, we're gonna crash, and then it's like cuts, and then they're fighting in the rubble in New York, and it's like, okay, I see what you cut out of that there.
I don't,
Clearly it fucking smashed into the
and I just not a bit of movie lore. I don't know how many of our listeners, but I assume probably about 95% of them have seen uh Escape to New York
yes.
with Snake Plissken. But if you see the trajectory plan of where they're to fly the plane, if you remember
Nice.
correctly, you
Yes.
remember it?
Yeah.
They fly it into the Twin Towers. I mean, sometimes
What
fiction
did
is stranger than
Carpenter
life.
know?
Yeah, yeah.
You nothing. Anyway, Tom, that's the weekly what have you. Where were you on 9/11? We're not accusing anybody of anything. We just want to find out. But that's enough of that for now. We're going to move on to the second segment, okay? Twin Towers, mighty lads all together. But
True.
you know what I'm going to tell you, Tom? Every week now there's a lad that surpasses all lads.
Yeah.
And he becomes what known on this podcast as this lad.
Now there's that guy.
Well, by God, this lad amalgamates into the form of two lads. Well, do you know
Two
what?
lads.
I think you could take take from this. There's a couple of individuals in this you could take from this story that you could say bit of a hero, bit of a fucking ledge, gonna have a story for life. Or so essentially, what's happened is, two lads on they were heading up, two astronauts. They were heading up by the name of God, what are their names again? Uh, were they cosmonauts? They were cosmonauts, I think. Um,
I'm gonna tell you now in two
they
seconds,
were.
but
I'm
they're on
nearly
a
sure.
Boeing Starliner is what they're on.
Yes, sorry, you're right. They are. They're on a Boeing Starliner, and they were Roscosmos. Yeah.
And
Um,
and 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 the two of them is a chap called Butch Wilmore. Now that's an astronaut's name if ever I'm going to tell
but
you, right?
Butch, the duo will return. With Sonny Williams and Butch Wilmore. I mean, that's
Yeah.
two
And
great
Sunny Williams,
names.
as we have always said with this lad is any gender and indeed at times any species, race. I do believe we've had a building be this lad at one stage or the
Yeah,
other. Sunny is a lady.
yeah, but
You know
still
what you call a lady astronaut, Tom?
an
An
astronaut.
astronaut.
But
2024, wake up.
that's actually. Do you know what? There's a guy who used to play rugby for New Zealand called Sonny Bill Williams, which but
Oh, Sonny Bill Williams. Oh, yes, yes, yes. I'm familiar
Sonny
with Sonny
Williams
Bill
and
Williams.
Butch Wilmore. I mean, they went up on what turned out to be a heap of shite. And I don't mind
Yes.
saying it. They were heading up to the International Space Station. They were only going up for a week in July, and turns out of the 24 jets that were basically, little back thrusters,
And a
you know,
little.
7 of them went queer.
Okay.
NASA were able to basically run tests and sort out 6 of those 7 little thrusters, and they got them docked. But the problem is there's one not fully working. There's a bit of dirt caught
Right.
in it. The injector's fucked. They got it off
I
of.
mean, I've been there, Tom. Now
Oh,
you're
here,
talking to me about fuel
keep
injectors now.
blowing grey smoke everywhere down the road. Shaming the life out of whoever's.
Hard start in the morning.
Oh God, clunk, 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 clunk. But the two lads, Sonny and Butch, Jesus, what a couple of names of people to be stuck. Brilliant. The plan was for them to spin around, have a look, see, maybe, I don't know, see how worms work in space. Um, but they've decided, bit too risky back in that joke. Now, I don't know, are they going to leave that joke up there for
Well, that I
future
don't
filming?
know. I know they're gonna come home. There's some other scheduled flight in February. So now they went up for a week and they have to stay there until February and they're going to get back on that flight. The craft that took them up, is that staying up there? Are they going to crash that into the sun? Who knows?
I don't know.
Uh
It's a SpaceX flight that's due up in I suppose cahoots with NASA, and that's due up in February. And they was to be four pilots on 4 astronauts on that, and both Zena Cardman and Stephanie Wilson have been bumped, and their uniforms because they're different. Boys went up in their NASA one, and they've had to send up 2 new suits to go look at. The SpaceX ones won't fit the NASA. I mean, it's Apple and
do you know what
Android
I'm going
all
to tell
over
you, Tom,
again,
right?
isn't it? Like,
We've all gone on holiday and been stranded somewhere along the way. I remember I got trapped in Malta when that remember that Icelandic ash cloud happened and all the flights were
I
grounded
do,
there about
I
15
do.
years ago. I got trapped in Malta for a full week, and let me tell you one thing now. You run out of clean jocks and socks very quick
That
because
was
you've
my
accounted for a week.
exactly my thing. And do you know what? Not to over egg the New York pudding here, but I once got stuck. Well, I say me and 6 other mates got stuck coming back from Vegas.
Right.
And our flight was delayed out of Vegas, so our connecting flight was going to be 3 days. Would you believe we did get and got stuck in? And they said, "Look, you can stay here in Vegas, and after 6 days in Vegas, you're done with Vegas." And they were like, "Or
Yes.
we can fly you to New York." We're like, "Jesus Christ!" And we weren't. And it was only when we agreed to go to the New York thing we realized, hold on, it's
Check the weather there.
25 degrees here and it's minus 19 in New York. We've got nothing but t-shirts and suntans and looking good. But thanks be to God, because all the airliners in the world, they promised you the sun, moon, and stars. Don't you worry, we'll look after you and whatnot. Sure, people were going to be sleeping in the airport in JFK for 3 days.
Yeah.
Not us, because one of the lads was a part of a family that booked it as a travel agent, and they've been in business a long, long time.
Nice.
And a phone call was made to Daddy. Daddy made a phone call to whoever was running, I don't know what, but we got to New
Yeah.
York, got picked up in a limo, and
Nice.
brought to the Hilton, and spent 3 days in this penthouse floor, which is known as the presidential suite, where you have a special card in the lift to go up that last level. There was a Starbucks coffee machine in my room, just in my room.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
And we went out, bought all our new gear in Macy's, all our cold weather gear in Macy's, and we all got, I think I spent $250 getting done up with gloves and everything because
Yeah.
it's fucking Baltic back. And yeah, we got every penny back. The airline, whoever it was. No, that would never happen me by myself. I would be still in
No, no,
Vegas.
no. But it's nice to know people.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah,
why you know
yeah.
people. That's why we stick around anybody, Tom, just in case we're ever
100%.
stuck.
100%.
Come here. I feel we're getting off the subject of
I know.
Sunny and
Sorry.
Butch stuck up on the International Space Station. Quite frankly, if you go up to space, he pays you money, he takes a chance, Tom. I hope to get home safely. Here's what I want to talk to you about. They're not having a great time of it today in particular, which is why they've been up there for ages, but they've only made this lad this week. They've been up there for quite some time, and they will be up there for quite some time. But something fishy happened this week that really put them into this lad territory.
Oh no, somebody shit their pants.
Oh no, I'd say they
Why
did
did I
that
think it was
promptly.
that? Why did I go there? But sorry, go on, Jer. Sorry, Jesus.
Uh, they're hearing strange sounds.
Ah, Christ. What coming
Now,
from where? Outer
well, you
space.
see, Tom, the brightest minds at NASA can't figure that out. They're hearing heartbeat-like sounds in the spaceship that's not coming from either of them. And, it's not like Armageddon style space dementia where you're hearing things or anything like that. And it's not like Event
I was
Horizon,
just thinking
which,
Event
you
Horizon.
might be
Here
a
we
wee bit
go.
like,
Yeah.
actually, it might actually, now that by the time I
It's
end this segment,
definitely
it actually
Event
is quite
Horizon.
Event Horizon. No, actually, bang on it is Event Horizon. They're having an Event Horizon. NASA put the sonar on it, and lo and behold, they heard like thump, 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 and had to come back to them going like, actually, you know what? You know what? You're not hearing things. There is an eerie heartbeat coming from somewhere. You're
Oh my
absolutely spot
God.
on right.
Oh
Um,
my God. It's like that's like being, Jules Verne, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, and some big giant octopus is trying to hump the back of your ship. There's some big alien with a big wang trying to absolutely hump the back. Oh no. Do you know what look,
uh,
I
NASA assures them that there's nothing to worry about, but they did admit that the sound sounds like halfway between a pulse and a clang.
well, I have
Now,
a
Tom, if
hypothesis.
your car was emitting something that sounded like a pulse or a clang, would you be comfortable?
Well, do you know what I'd probably think, Jer? I'd probably go back a few steps and go, well, what got us here? Yeah. A busted
Yeah.
fucking injector on the fucking ship. That's all it is. The yoke is still ticking over. You know when you drive a car hard as fuck to get home for a match or something, and you pull in and you turn off the engine, but you're still going tick 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 when it's roasting
Yeah, yeah,
hot.
yeah, 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 yeah,
Ah,
yeah, yeah,
listen,
yeah. You
the
should
thing just hasn't cooled down yet, lads. I'd give it another week.
give it another wee while. Don't be coming. Don't be jumping at every little pulse or clang that your
Oh my God.
haunted spaceship is making
Oh
while
my
you're
God.
stranded in it until February.
Oh
This is
my
literally the
God.
shining in
Open
space. We're
the door.
stranding you in.
Open the fucking door and let me out. That's it. I'm not
Yeah,
waiting for some bio goo that has just hitched a ride on the back of an asteroid and leapt onto our poor old space station and is now, oh God, penetrating some valve.
yes. Well,
Oh no, Jesus Christ, no.
we
Listen,
we
burn it
wish
where
them the
it's.
best, and we hope that the new
No,
the
that's
new
it. That's
socks and jocks that are sent up fit them well.
That's the space station gone, lads. The
But
International Space Station's gone. I'm sorry, send a rocket up. That's it. Do away with it. Because if the now
yeah,
there's
no, forget
the
about
thing
it.
has
Just
become sentient and is now pulsing and has a heartbeat and a clang. That's it. That's
do you
it.
know what it'd be, Tom? Do you know what it'd be? Butch and Siri, they'd be looking out the window of the ISS there and go, "Come here to me. This could just be me now. Look at the Earth there. Does that seem a little further away than it was an hour ago?"
No, you're imagining things. Come on, dinner's ready. Sit down.
Do you find us being do you hear like a rocket just kind of pushing us further and further out to space? Is that something we want to worry about? That's what it'd be. That's what it'd be.
If they see a raccoon looking in the
Hey,
window
look.
and some blue guy just with a wand that flies
Yeah,
through
yeah,
the
yeah,
air,
yeah,
then
yeah.
that's it. It's curtains for them. My God, the horror,
But
the
sorry,
absolute.
if you make it back to Earth safe and sound, you're welcome to come on the podcast and tell us about the horrific time
I
you
want to
suffered.
hear that. I want to hear.
Stranded in space.
That's the country song I want to hear. Between Sonny and Butch. I used to joke. But if ever there was a 90s sitcom
Now
to
I
be
want you to
made,
put a big Nashville welcome together for our next
the
act
Grand
up
Ole
on
Opry.
stage. It's Sonny and Butch with their new song, I Fell
It,
in Love in Space.
as we drifted into the void of a wide expanse of
No,
nothing.
Tom, I know
Oh,
what it'd be.
oh my
It'd be
God.
like with their new song. I went to space for a week and got back home 6 months later, but I only left my dog with a week's worth of dog food.
We got married in space. Yeah.
All right,
Best of
Tom.
luck
Well,
to you guys. Oh
let's
my
hope
Lord.
eerie noises notwithstanding that Butch and Surrey up there don't have a row.
I know. I know. I know.
Because they have
But
enough to worry about. They need their head in a swivel if they're going to survive this goddamn thing. So the last thing they want to do is fall out. But Tom, that doesn't mean to say that you or I couldn't have a falling out.
My attitude is don't start nothing, won't be nothing.
it's true. It's true. We have one on a regular basis, and I think it's a healthy thing in a relationship to not always agree on things. But in the saying that, we've been kind of poking each other to see what we can get under each other's skin with and whatnot.
Yes.
But I would say coming together, we could both collectively probably piss off half our listeners with a
I
row.
would anybody that's made it this far past the 9/11 segment without getting pissed off, I swear to God,
Fair play to
time's
you.
coming.
Yeah, yeah. Because we are on the cusp of the start of the British English Football Premiership.
Yeah, started Saturday gone by, I believe.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, it's kind of the start of a lot of leagues around the world of different things, but probably
Yes.
the most famous money thrown at it kind of league throughout the world, probably the biggest followership throughout the world. And I don't know how I slipped through the cracks because I do like sport, but by suffered and Jesus, could I give less of a shit about this thing? In fact, to the point that I'm vehemently against it.
This is it, Tom. I'm going to be for this final segment of starting a row. Normally we row with each other, but every now and then we unite against a common goal. And I got to tell you, whatever it was that anybody ever loved about association football, soccer to our American listeners, in particular the Premier League and the Premier League teams, I'm just going to ask you straight out, listeners, why are you still watching this?
Here's the thing. I can kind of get the soccer thing, right? I can get football because
Oh, fine sport.
I used to like watching football in the 90s, like
Yeah.
Roy Keane, Eric Cantona days, because it seemed like people were playing with pride for a team and they were one man team. You know, they were a one club man. They were earning good money, but
Yeah.
there seemed to be a flahulach, as they would say, with the rules a bit. In that you could kind of boot the fucking legs off each other. Do you know what I mean? Like they were like you go back and you watch, say, an Arsenal, Man United or a
Yes.
Liverpool United, say from 1992. Comparatively, you say, oh well, it's a bit slower and the skills aren't quite there. Watch it for the absolute sport of it. They knock lumps out of each other. They're allowed to shoulder, they're boot, and lads are just. You go back to Vinnie Jones' era. He's kicking the fucking back off everybody he can get a chance to go near. He's
Tom,
cutting
you
people
don't
in
even
half.
have to go that far back. You don't have to go that far back. Just go on to YouTube, anybody here, and type the words Roy Keane into the search bar. Just that. Press enter and just watch the first video that comes up.
Yeah, yeah. He was just milling people.
But regardless of which, Tom, here's the thing. There always was a hint that something wasn't right with football. And that there was, certain teams would get preferential treatment to others. Fergie time, for example, there was always very suspicious that he'd get an extra 5 minutes at the end of a game to
Yeah,
get a draw or whatnot. But it was sort of like an undercurrent and you could ignore it. There was always prima donna players that would roll around on the pitch, clearly cheating, looking for frees and things like this. And on any given team, there was a couple of players that were on astronomical money, beyond the reckoning of mortal men money.
yeah.
But it wasn't enough to poison the whole thing. Well, I'll tell you, Tom, it fucking is now.
Oh my God.
Because there doesn't seem to be a player on a pitch for less than, the price of a house a week.
Yeah.
They don't appear to want to play at all. And there are certain teams that the thumb is very much on the scale for certain teams, particularly with the video assist referee thing that came in. It's very much like, yeah, no, that wasn't offside for that team. When I'm looking at it on the screen, and it clearly was.
This is the thing. I was talking with a guy the other day, and he is, Liverpool to his die, and I was kind of, but in the same breath, the same guy was wearing like a T-shirt that said 32 counties forever. I'm like, you kind of need to get your geography, and
Yes,
you get,
yes.
yeah, but Liverpool is like an Irish extension of it. No, no, it's yeah,
Mm,
it's a fine
I heard
place.
that one too.
I've been there, but the reality is, it's in England. It's in England. Would you not just, if you're a real true supporter, would you not go up and support, I don't know, Cork City or whoever you're into? You know what I mean? But he wasn't having any of it, and he was kind of giving it loads about, but there's this guy and there's it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
went,
yeah.
here, how is soccer not moved with the times at all? Like rugby and to a lesser extent, our GA sports, or to lesser in that in recent times, they started using the same VAR thing that tennis has been using since fucking McEnroe's days. A little
Right.
laser down the line will, like, Jesus Christ, you buy a laser on Wish now for measuring things for £5. They use these. They brought in. They was so vehemently against changing rules to make it more interesting, whereas most sports are always trying to upgrade their rules to just go,
Yeah.
well, we need more viewership. We need to make the game faster, more interesting. Right, let's give more points for this. Let's widen the. Jesus Christ, you could go to a soccer match and nobody score. Nobody score. Spike Milligan had a great phrase. He went to a match once, nobody scored. He went down to the gate and asked for his money back. Fair.
Yeah.
Absolutely fair.
I'll
Like,
and like I don't mind a hard fought victory or a hard fought or a well earned draw, whatever the hell it might be, Tom. I can't watch a millionaire roll on the ground like he's been shot. And Tom, I watch wrestling where
yeah.
millionaires rolling around on the ground like they've been shot, and I don't my sensibilities are not as offended as I am when I watch boys like clearly not hurt, clearly winking at the camera. I'm like, it's just I can't understand how somebody watches that and doesn't put a bar stool through a TV screen. I
And
genuinely can't.
ironically, the chaps that are watching it for the most part, will never ever come within an ass's roar of €1 million or £1 million. You know what I
No,
mean? When
no.
they're watching these ludicrously overpaid people, and that's what I think has ruined the Premiership. When I enjoyed watching it in primary school and then to a lesser extent in secondary school, I, they didn't come across as colossal, untouchable superstars that they are now. You know what I mean?
No, and I'll tell you
Like
because I'll tell you again,
godlike
Tom, the same
figures.
boys. Yeah, because the same boys weren't like preening and modeling on Instagram.
No, but that was when
Do you
it
know what I
came
mean?
in with David Beckham. Apparently, like Keane was having none of it. He was like, "Get that shit out of your hair, cut." And
Yeah,
Ferguson was
we're
the sort
fucked
that would
up.
go, "You're not coming on the bus unless you cut that fucking hair. I'm not
We're
having
fu-
that."
and okay, so all that notwithstanding, Tom, and the fact that the richer teams are clearly buying victories. They're
Yeah,
clear.
yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah.
the thumb is on the scale, and a lot of the clubs are run by dirty money from around the world.
100%. Yeah,
Clearly,
yeah, yeah.
like they've got receipts for it. Okay, you take all that out of it, and what you're left with after the fact is a sport that nobody seems to enjoy to watch because it's fallen into this kind of American football way of viewership in it. Okay, Tom, when you were a young lad, okay,
Yeah.
watching football, did you ever go back to the playground after the fact and talk about the assists?
You see, absolutely not. You were named yourself the player, i.e., I'm Peter Schmeichel. I'm in goals.
Yeah,
I'm, Ronnie Whelan. I'm going to do a bicycle kick for Liverpool or whatever. But no, the boring shit, like, you know what I mean?
boring shit like that, and the stats and all this kind of thing, and the movements. But this whole thing of like, oh well, O'Mahony got a goal and McBride had the assist. Well, why are you telling me that?
Yeah,
Why are you telling me that has nothing to do with nothing, okay? All that is it feeds back into gambling that somebody had that on an accumulator.
yeah.
Oh, so and so with a goal with McBride with a goal and an assist by O'Mahony, and it'll get you another 50p on top of a bet or
Is that
whatever it
it?
might be.
Is that the assist thing? Is that actually factored in? Yeah.
And that's when it comes. If you watch like American football or baseball or anything like that, or NBA basketball or anything like that, You watch Uncut Gems and your man's firing off bets at
I
the end,
couldn't. I
right?
couldn't. I got about 20 minutes in and my heart gave up. I couldn't. This is too stressful.
At the end of it, and he's saying like, oh, it's not like, oh well, I want the Celtics to win by 3. It's like I want the Celtics to win by 3 with a dunk scored by this fella and an assist from midfield by this fella
Oh,
here, and it's
Jesus
all in
Christ.
accumulating bets. And that's all. And that to me is what it is over here. It's like, look, let's just wring money out of lads in the pub. When they're in the pub, do you want to bet on who wins, red or blue? But if you want to make it spicier, who wins by how many goals? And if you want to see who scores first, you would throw you another Yankee on top of it.
Yeah.
And then, okay, whoever scores first, who scores second? And who assists them? Well, you could be a millionaire for just a fiver. Why wouldn't you put a fiver on that? And boys go,
Yeah.
yeah, put a fiver on it. And then they
Mm.
just lose a fiver.
And then you're hooked. And then you're hooked.
And then
That's
you're
it. Yeah, that's it. And that's
But
kind
you
of
only lost a fiver, but you could have won a million. No,
and,
you lost a fiver. And
and
you're about to
that's
lose a hell of a lot more.
and that's the argument that people, when it's continuously put to GEA, would you not pay your players? And they're like, no, because we opened that door once. And if you're playing intercounty anything, you're looked after all right. You as a person,
Yeah, well,
you're looked
yeah, I
after
mean,
all
yeah,
right.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Life will be good if you work it right. Life will be good. But the players themselves say the same thing. They're of the same kind of parochial attitude that look at the other end of the spectrum of where money will end up. Before you know it, then you're looking for athletes in Arizona to come over and play. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And not saying that you shouldn't be, diluting whatever, but at the same time, it becomes a money thing, and money ruins all sport. That's, you know what I mean?
This
If
is it.
if let in, and if there isn't, like, I think they could solve it. They could solve a lot of this, and I don't know how, because they do it in other sports. If you, on the whole league, they put a cap on the overall. Say you got a £10 million cap. That's what you're allowed to pay your players for the year. Use it
Okay.
use it wisely. Christ, we're going to have to cut the 30 lads who are on. Like, there's lads, Ger, who haven't played in 5 years, who are literally
Yeah.
on the training squad and might get called up if 3 other fellas break their fucking leg. And they're happy with that. Playing no football at all, but probably on 5, 6, 7,000 a week. Do you know what I
Do you
mean?
know what, Tom? I wouldn't complain. That'd be exactly
No.
what I would want to do.
That I'd be right down for that, because,
I kind of respect them more than the boy on $1 million a week rolling around the field like he's been shot in the kneecap.
yeah.
Do you know what,
I know.
Tom? But I'm going to stop you there before you start proposing actual decent solutions to a problem, because this is not that kind of podcast.
No, it's not.
And
I
in
don't know
closing,
why
I'll
I
just
came out
say,
with that. I can only apologize.
honestly, fuck football. I don't know why anybody watches it anymore. It's clearly rotten to the core.
Jeez, get off the fence, Ger, will you?
It wasn't. It was a pain in the hole to begin with. And your favorite team is probably no good either. And your favorite player is probably about to get arrested from allegations that he absolutely did. Other than that, enjoy the game.
For me, it's the unattainability of these people. Like, most sports that I would follow, I'm too, they say the 7 stages away from Kevin Bacon or whatever, or 7.
Yeah.
I'm in a phone call right now, and not because of what I've done. Well, I guess to a degree, but somebody as grunty as me could get directly in contact with an international or a county player if I really needed to. I could.
Mm-hmm.
Within a fortnight, I could make it happen to a degree for whatever reason. These demigods, like, young lads, are looking at them and crying. Like, no, he just pulls his trousers up one leg at a time every morning like everybody else. That's just a bloke.
Yes.
And that's where I think a player pay cap would be amazing. But, when you introduce oligarchy and money into things from various strange places around the world.
Tom, you have to cram in 80,000 people every week and sell them £100 jerseys. And 50. You know what? I'm going to tell you. If you like football, enjoy it. Not for us, Tom. How about that? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. How about that? Yeah.
Yeah, and even if you do like football,
you want to debate us?
Even
come
if
at
you
us
do
in
like
the comments.
football,
We got all day.
What are the merits of football? What are the merits of it? But you know what? What would
What
you
are you
change?
even watching it for anymore? What enjoyment do you get out of it? Because these are constantly shower of moany bastards. I've never met a happy football fan in my life, Tom.
Cribbing.
In my life, I've never met a happy football fan.
Well, I suppose there was those lads from Harry Potter was in that movie. Do you remember from Green Street? We're all blowing bubbles. Was Harry Potter?
Oh, yeah.
No, Frodo was in that.
Well, they're happy when they're swinging digs. Any rate, how are you all keeping? Welcome to the end of the Tom and Jerry show of myself, Jerry McBride, and himself, Tom O'Mahony. We're going to say thank you very much for listening. If you want to hear more of our bullshit, let us give us another follow there on social media. You'll find us at Tom and Jerry Show on Twitter or Instagram, or at Jerry McBride for me, at Tom_O'Mahony for him. Will find us in most places. And come at us over this football thing because we're spoiling for a row. Tom, what else do you want these fine people to do?
If you are listening for the very first time, you know what to do. Just hit subscribe, hit the bell on whatever platform you're on. I think it's a bell typically, but on old Spotify, it definitely is. If you can leave a rating, give it the 5 stars or the 5 thumbs up or the 5 whatever likes, just to drive it up the rating so that it's seen by more people. We don't actually get anything as a result of it.
Definitely not.
Screen grab, share, tag us on your stories, whatever it is. Let people know what you're listening to. If you have a whinge with any of us, where you were around that time, in a major American history, what would you do? What do you reckon is in that pulse, up in the heartbeat of that space? Have you ever been trapped in a dose of a scenario, i.e., perhaps listen to a relation just spit into your ear drunken at a wedding or whatever? That can be right up there with those with poor old Butch and Sonny. And do you believe in football at all? Because we don't.
Yeah.
And if you are,
any of these
try
subjects
and change our
and
minds.
more besides.
Try and change our minds. If you have any suggestions too of amazing things that you spotted, whether it be this lad, the weekly what have you, or you want to have a row with us over something, Jesus Christ, have a go. Come at us.
I wish you the very best of luck.
Other than that, Ger, I'm going to go out and maybe say a few words for that poor old Shuala outside in the darkness.
Yeah, Tom, listen, I don't want to go all CSI, but story suspect Pa's got holes. Don't leave town. We got some questions.
Right. Good luck.
Good luck.